Welcome and thank you for standing by. Currently, all participants are in listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn the call over to your presenter for today, Mary McKay.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm Mariana McKay with the American Community Survey Office, and today I'm going to be going through an introduction to the American Community Survey. As Lisa mentioned, today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted after the webinar. In addition, the PDF versions of the slides are available on the ACS events page at the link shown on the slide. My colleague is also sharing that and other links throughout the presentation in the chat. Feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A feature as they come up for you throughout the webinar. Again, I want to thank you for attending today's webinar, and I'm hoping I can enlighten you and further your understanding of the ACS. If you leave here today still wanting to learn more, I highly recommend you check out a great ACS training that currently has 2 modules available to you. Without further ado, let's check out the American Community Survey. You're going to see QR codes pop up on some of the slides. Feel free to use those to navigate to the links on the slides. But again, my colleague is going to be putting the links in the chat as well. Before I dive into our data, let's start with a quick overview about the U.S. Census Bureau as a whole. And yes, we do more than simply count people. The Census Bureau is the largest of 13 primary federal government statistical agencies. In 2020, the U.S. Census Bureau employed more than 10,000 professional staff and 450,000 hourly employees to conduct the 2020 census. Only 3 U.S.-based companies, Walmart, Amazon, and Yum Foods, had worldwide workforces that were larger. While most people are familiar with the decennial census that happens every 10 years, we also conduct more than 130 censuses and surveys of households and businesses across the nation each year. This includes the American Community Survey and more than 30 other household surveys. There are also over 60 economic programs. Of these, the economic census is the biggest and most comprehensive. There's also information on our nation's public sector provided through the Census of Governments. The Census Bureau's mission is to serve as the nation's leading provider of quality data about its people and economy, and our goal is to provide the best mix of timeliness, relevancy, quality, and cost for the data we collect and services we provide. Let's go over today's agenda. The first part of today's webinar, I'm going to go through the basics of the American Community Survey, including the history of the survey, how the data are collected, the topics included, and geographies covered. Next, I will explain the types of tables or data products available from the ACS. After that, I will discuss some of the tools available to help you access ACS data, followed by a demonstration of how to find data using a few of these tools. And I'll wrap up by sharing some resources available on our website for learning more about the survey. The ACS is on the leading edge of survey design, continuous improvement, and data quality. It is the nation's most current, reliable, and accessible data source for local statistics on critical planning topics. The survey randomly samples approximately 3.5 million housing addresses each year. These data are collected continuously throughout the year to produce annual social, economic, housing, and demographic estimates. The Census Bureau typically releases 3 different sets of data estimates from the ACS each year in the form of 1-year and 5-year period data sets, as well as 1-year supplemental estimates. I will discuss these data products in more detail on an upcoming slide. One final thing I want to mention is that the first ACS 1-year estimates are from 2005, and the first 5-year ACS release was the 2005 to 2009 dataset. In order to understand what the ACS is and why it exists, we need to discuss a bit of census history. The first census of the United States was conducted in 1790 and occurred every 10 years, with one form being used to collect data from all households through 1930. From 1940 to 2000, the decennial census, which is a name for the census conducted every 10 years, contained a short form used to collect data from all households and a long form that was used to collect data from a sample of households. The long form approach worked well initially, but the data became less and less current as the decade progressed after each decennial census. In the early 1990s, demand from a wide variety of users for current, nationally consistent data led federal government policymakers to consider the feasibility of collecting social, economic, and housing data continuously throughout the decade. In 2000, a large-scale demonstration of the ACS was conducted. The ACS was then fully implemented in 2005 and began collecting data for all America's communities each year. There is also the Puerto Rico Community Survey, the PRCS, which is the equivalent of the ACS in Puerto Rico. In 2010 and moving forward, the decennial census is only a short form sent to all households because the ACS now collects information each year that was once collected by the long form each decade. The ACS is part of the decennial census program. Therefore, it is important to point out how the ACS differs from the census itself. ACS estimates are based on a sample of the population, whereas the census is based on the official count of the population. Every year, over 3.5 million housing unit addresses are contacted to participate in the ACS. The information obtained from the sample of 3.5 million housing unit addresses is then used to estimate characteristics about the total population in a timely and cost-effective manner. However, these estimates differ from those obtained in a census where every single household in the nation is contacted. This results in an element of uncertainty in the ACS data. As such, ACS estimates include a margin of error, or MOE. The MOE give us more information about the population by telling us how much the estimate may vary from the true population value. What does the ACS collect? The ACS collects information that previously appeared on the census long form, collecting detailed social, economic, housing, and demographic characteristics, whereas the census collects basic demographics via that short form. So that's age, sex, race, Hispanic origin, household relationship, and housing tenure. What is produced? The ACS produces population and housing characteristics, whereas the census produces population and housing totals and select characteristics. When are the new data available? The ACS occurs annually, reflecting a period of time over which the data are collecting, averaging data for 12 months or 60 months, whereas the census occurs every 10 years and reflects a point in time. So your little trivia fact here is that Census Day is April 1st. So as I just brought up that margin of error, or MOE, in the previous slide, I now want to discuss MOEs and their importance. MOEs allow data users to be certain that at a given level of confidence, the estimate and the actual population value differ by no more than the value of that MOE. The Census Bureau uses a 90% confidence level as its standard. All ACS estimates published on data.census.gov have margins of error calculated at that 90% confidence level. It's also important to note that the MOEs provided by the Census Bureau are always in the same units as the respective estimates. For example, a percent estimate is going to have a percent margin of error, or a median income estimate is going to have a margin of error in dollars. So here's a little example we'll walk through. So we have detailed table B01001, sex by age, as it's displayed on data.census.gov for the state of New Mexico. As you can see, the table has three elements that I'm showing you. We have the characteristics, aka the description. So we have total male under 5 years. Then we have the estimates, and then we have their margins of error. So I'm pulling out here highlighted in red. So put simply, the margin of error, MOE, is a measure of the possible variation of an estimate around the population value. So in this example, we want to know how many males under age 5 live in New Mexico. We find the lower bound by subtracting the margin of error from the estimate. And similarly, we find the upper bound by adding the estimate and margin of error together. So we can say we are 90% confident that the true number of males under age 5 in New Mexico falls between the lower bound of 55,869 and the upper bound of 61,869. So moving back to data collection, how does one participate in the ACS? First, addresses are randomly selected to participate. In a typical year, the ACS data collection operation uses 3 modes that take place over a 3-month period. Households that receive the survey can respond via the internet, by mail, or by personal visit with a field representative. Typically, for most housing units, the first phase of data collection includes an invitation for the household to respond via internet, which is mailed to the sample address. If the household does not respond online, a paper questionnaire is sent for the household to complete and return by mail. If the Census Bureau can't reach anyone at the sample address, or if the unit had an unmailable address, the address may be selected for computer-assisted personal interviewing, known as CAPI. If the census receives an internet response or a completed paper questionnaire from the sampled address at any point of the process, we will remove the address from the data collection workload. Each address has about a 1 in 480 chance of being selected in a month, and no address should be selected more than once every 5 years. Also, respondents are always able to call the telephone questionnaire assistance line if they have questions about the survey or prefer to complete the survey over the phone. Each completed survey is important because it is a building block used to create statistics about communities. The information collected throughout the US by the ACS and throughout Puerto Rico by the PRCS is used as the basis for decisions that affect nearly every aspect of our lives. People who receive the ACS have the responsibility of responding so that the statistical portrait of their community is as complete and accurate as possible. Information from the ACS is critical to federal, tribal, state, and local agencies. These estimates are used to evaluate the need for new roads, hospitals, schools, senior services, and other basic services. Also, it's important to note, you can be rest assured that the information is kept private and protected by law under Title 13 of the United States Code. There are many users of ACS data, such as local planners and policymakers, businesses, nonprofits, researchers, and more. Most people probably never think about how local planners use ACS data to know where to target new development or services, or where businesses get data they need to plan for expansion. Others don't even know that nonprofit organizations use ACS data in their grant applications, as well as to make decisions on how to support the communities in which they operate. At the bottom of this slide is the URL to our Share Your Story section of our ACS webpage. Here you can also find actual uses of ACS data. For example, one of our stories shares how a team of nonprofit professionals, Grant Steps Consulting Group LLC, uses ACS data to help nonprofits throughout Wichita, Kansas win grants. Grant Steps used ACS topics such as race, households by type, school enrollment, citizenship status, and more to gather a picture of its community to aid in securing grant funding for those in need. With these stories, it's easy to say that the ACS data serve the needs of data users for many purposes. The Census Bureau is committed to producing data that depict an accurate portrait of America, including its underserved communities. Some of our data equity services include demographic data. We provide a wealth of data by key demographic variables such as race, ethnicity, sex, disability, income, and veteran status to help measure equity. These data are often by geography, which provides meaning and context to the statistical data, and they can identify rural and underserved communities. You can explore demographic data with our tools, such as data.census.gov, which we will see later in this presentation. Data tools. So we supply a variety of data tools that help the public and policymakers understand the issues surrounding inequities and enable them to propose effective data-based solutions. Public Assistance Program metrics. Among other uses, Census Bureau data can provide metrics to show public assistance programs' progress and outcomes. Diversity measurement. We use several approaches to measure the racial and ethnic diversity of the United States population, including the Diversity Index, prevalence rankings, the diffusion score, and a series of prevalence maps. Data education. A major part of our mission is to educate the public, policymakers, and stakeholders on what data we have available and how to use them. To empower data users like you with understandable, accurate, and timely information and the knowledge to use it, we invite you to explore our online Census Academy for upcoming webinars like the one we're in right now, and to access on-demand data training. You can browse our data equity library with its online collection of equity-related data visualizations, infographics, photos, audio, video, working papers, and more. Census Bureau data are valuable assets that can be used by policymakers and the public to advance equity. The content collected by the American Community Survey can be grouped into 4 main types of characteristics, which you've probably heard me mention a couple times now: social, demographic, economic, and housing. Taking a closer look at each type of information, so social characteristics include topics such as disability status, education, and language spoken at home. The basic demographic characteristics such as sex, age, race, and Hispanic origin are those same topics collected in the decennial census. Then economic characteristics include topics such as commuting to work, employment status, and income. And housing characteristics include topics such as computer and internet use, housing costs, and vehicles available. There is a lot in the ACS, and you might find yourself working with different variables depending on the day or your need. And these topics are used to produce more than 1,000 tables for local communities each year. Along with the numerous topics covered, the ACS also provides data for more geographies on an annual basis than any other household survey. The image on this slide shows some of the geographies for which ACS data are produced and the relationship between them. Lower geographic areas fit neatly within the larger areas directly connected with lines. For example, school, congressional, and state legislative districts fit neatly within states and do not cross state boundaries. However, they may cross boundaries of counties or metropolitan areas. In this visualization, you can also see that the smallest geographic building block for the ACS is the block group. The ACS's unique ability to report on a wide range of geographies is what gives it such a broad appeal. Again, covering a wide range of geographic areas, ACS data are most commonly needed at the state, county, place, census tract, and block group geographic levels. This slide illustrates the relationships between these common geographic types and how they are nested within one another, as this example shows in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Census tracts are small statistical subdivisions within a county with populations of about 1,200 to 8,000 people. Block groups are a group of blocks within a census tract with about 600 to 3,000 people, as you've seen blown out in the right corner of the screen. Again, the ACS has the ability to report on a wide range of geographies as well as to provide data at very granular levels like census tracts and block groups. A few slides back, I mentioned the different data products that the ACS provides. So to track your memory, they are the 1 year, the 1 year supplemental, and the 5-year estimates. These data products are released about 1 year after the data are collected. ACS data are generally released in September, the calendar year after collection, as 1 year estimates, in October, the calendar year after collection, as 1 year supplemental estimates, and 5-year estimates are generally released in the December, the calendar year after collection. So for example, the 1 year ACS data collected from January 1st through December 31st of 2022 are planned to be released on September 14th of this year, in just a few weeks. ACS 1 year estimates, which combine data collected over 12 months, are available for geographic areas with a population of 65,000 or more. ACS 1 year supplemental estimates are a subset of detailed tables that are available for geographic areas with populations of 20,000 or more. ACS 5-year estimates combine data collected over 60 months or 5 years and are available for geographic areas of all sizes down to those granular census tracts and block group levels. The full detailed data release schedule for each year is available on the link you see at the bottom. Here's a county map that shows you which releases are available for different parts of the country. In this map, the yellow counties only receive 5-year estimates and are the counties with a population below 20,000. The light blue counties receive 1 year supplemental and 5-year estimates. These are the counties with a population of 20,000 or more. Finally, the dark blue counties receive 1 year, 1-year supplemental, and 5-year estimates. These are the counties with a population of 65,000 or more. If you live in many states in the Northeast, there are a lot of counties that do meet that 65,000 population threshold, which means you can get the latest 1-year data each year. On the West Coast, most of those counties get 1-year data as well. But in parts of the Midwest, especially in the Dakotas stretching down to North Texas, those areas have much greater reliance on the 5-year data. I just covered some background information and the basic foundation of the ACS. So now let's jump into some data products or types of tables that the ACS provides. When you start digging in, it's helpful to know more about the types of data products available in the ACS. The data products fall broadly into 2 categories: profiles or tables. The letters in parentheses next to the profile and table types, as you can see on this slide, which we will discuss data profiles, and the next slide, which we will cover data tables, correspond to the beginning of the table ID. And I'm going to explain table IDs in a few moments. But first, let's focus on data profiles. Profiles offer a broad look at a community's social, economic, housing, and demographic characteristics. They generally include many different variables, and the geography or population group is at the center. ACS includes the following types of profiles. So we have data profiles, which provide those broad social, economic, housing, and demographic profiles. Comparison profiles that offer comparisons of data profile estimates across ACS years, and selected population profiles. And these profiles provide broad social, economic, and housing profiles for a large number of race, ethnic, ancestry, and country or region of birth groups. Tables are the other type of data product available in the ACS. Tables provide a precise or detailed view of a subject, and the subject matter is the center of the table. So ACS includes the following types of tables. We have detailed tables that provide access to the most detailed ACS data down to that block group and cross-tabulations of ACS variables. Supplemental tables that are simplified tables that provide ACS statistics at a lower population threshold than the standard 1-year data tables. Subject tables that are similar to data profiles but include more detailed ACS data classified by subject. Ranking tables provide state rankings of estimates across 86 key variables, and the geographic comparison tables that compare geographic areas other than states for key variables. So now that you understand more about the types of data products we offer, let's talk about how we identify the ACS products. So while the characters of the table ID may look random at first, I assure you they're not. So each table ID is purposefully numbered to describe its content and format. For example, B06004APR shows that the table contains place of birth statistics for the white alone population in Puerto Rico. Let's break that down. Table IDs consist of up to 5 elements. Every table will have the first 3. So element 1 identifies the table type. In this example, the type of table is a base table, which is a type of detail table. Therefore, the letter B is used. Element 2 identifies the subject. So in this case, the subject of the table is place of birth, which is 06. Element 3 is the sequential number, so that's a set of 2 or 3 digits that uniquely identifies the table within a given subject, 004. Element 4 is the race iteration for that table. Each table is repeated for the 9 major race and Hispanic or Latino groups. The A stands for white alone. Element 5 is for tables where the content of the table for Puerto Rico differs from the US table. A comparable US table ID will have the first 4 elements, but without that 5th element, PR. Now that we are familiar with ACS data products, I want to briefly go over data tools which provide and use ACS data. And I'll also finish this section with a few demonstrations of data tools. So catering to a variety of data users with unique needs, we have a variety of data access tools. This is a list of just a few of those tools. So data.census.gov is the Census Bureau's main data dissemination platform to access Census Bureau statistics. QuickFacts provides selected statistics for all states and counties, and for cities and towns with a population of 5,000 or more, using the ACS as well as other Census Bureau datasets. My tribal area gives you a quick and easy access to selected ACS statistics for tribal areas. So these first three tools are what I'm going to demonstrate for you today shortly. My congressional district gives you quick and easy access to selected statistics collected by the ACS and county business patterns, another Census Bureau survey. My Community Explorer is an interactive map-based tool highlighting demographic and socioeconomic data from the ACS and other Census Bureau datasets. On the Map for Emergency Management provides data for disasters, natural hazards, and weather events using the ACS as well as other Census Bureau datasets. Census Business Builder provides selected demographic data from the ACS and economic data from the Census Bureau to help users start or grow a business or understand the business landscape for a region. The Application Programming Interface, or API, lets developers create custom apps to reach new users and make key demographic, socioeconomic, and housing statistics more accessible than ever before. All data tools are available from census.gov. Choose the Data and Maps tab at the top of the screen, then click on the Data, Tools, and Apps tab to view a comprehensive list of census tools and apps. I want to now take a few moments and demonstrate some ACS data tools. I'm going to show you how to access data from data.census.gov, QuickFacts, and My Tribal Area. If you want to be able to view margins of error or conduct statistical testing, which we will talk about shortly, you would turn to data.census.gov. You would also use data.census.gov if you wanted more than basic statistics or cross-tabulated data for a large number of geographies. For example, if I wanted to know the percentage of children under 5 who are enrolled in school in all the cities in my state, I would use data.census.gov. Some data users may be interested in basic statistics like the population for their city. For that, I would turn to QuickFacts. QuickFacts helps to easily find basic population, business, or geography statistics for a particular city, state, or county with a population of 5,000 or more. For example, if I wanted to know the percentage of children under 5 in my city and I was not concerned with also having more detail about that group or having the margin of error, I would start with QuickFacts. And My Tribal Area is used when data are needed for population and housing data tabulated for the American Indian and Alaska Native lands. So I'm going to hop over to my browser now to start with data.census.gov. So here's the main data.census.gov webpage. You can use this search bar to search topics, geographies, or whatever you would like, but I'm going to show you how to use the advanced search feature. And the way that I'm doing it is not necessarily the only way or the best way, it's just my preferred way. So there's many ways to get to the end goal, but we're going to use these filters first, and I'm going to select geography. My main goal is I want the median income for all counties in Ohio. So let's limit our geography. We're going to click on county. Since they're organized by state, I'm going to scroll down to Ohio. And then this first box is all counties within Ohio. I'm going to click it. I know it's selected because it shows up on my left side here. Then I'm going to jump down to topics. And again, I'm interested in income, specifically median, but I'm going to click here, income for households, families, individuals. That second filter is going to show up here. And then I'm going to click search. So we're going to give it a second to pop up. And these are all Census Bureau estimates. So it's not necessarily just from the American Community Survey, but right here I see immediately I have my table S1903, median income in the past 12 months. I'm going to click here to see the table. I can click these carets to minimize because I know that this is the table that I want. Now, the default is the ACS 1-year estimates. I know that there are counties in Ohio that do not meet that 65,000 population threshold. So not all the counties are currently showing. So I'm going to click on this box and I'm going to make sure I have the 5-year estimates selected. So this ensures that I have all of the counties included in my table. So I can see that there's 3 sets of columns. We have a number, percent distribution, and then we have median income over here. And then I can scroll down and see that it's broken up by different characteristics. I have it for all 88 counties in Ohio, and from here, I can download an Excel, a CSV, or a zip file depending on my needs. I will say that the Excel file is going to mirror what you're seeing in your browser most closely. So from here, you can go back to those filters, you can explore different tables, you can add more geographies or get more granular by looking at different topics in addition to income. So that's a very quick look at data.census.gov. And now I'm going to hop over to quick facts. So you just go to census.gov/quick facts. And here it looks a lot different, and I'm going to zoom in so people can see. In this search bar, so for this one, I'm now interested in commuting times for Baltimore City, Maryland. So here I'm going to start typing in Baltimore, and I'm going to see that there's 4 options that come up, and I'm selecting the second one, Baltimore City, Maryland. Here we have all of those quick facts show up, but I want to just pop out one real quick. I'm going to use the select a fact, scroll down to transportation. I see mean travel time to work. So we'll get it right here. We have mean travel time to work that pops up at the top. We have Baltimore City, so the average or the mean travel time is 30.7 minutes. The United States is the default geography. I can keep it here, so then as I'm scrolling through, I can look at the differences, or I can just click here and it'll remove the United States from my view. So again, this is for populations of 5,000 or more. And finally, I'm going to show my tribal area. So you're going to go to census.gov/tribal. So this is what my tribal area tool looks like when you first get here. If you know what your area is, you can start typing it in there, or you can select by state. So for this one, I'm going to scroll down to New York, and I'm going to select my tribal area, Cayuga Nation. So right here, we have the map show up. So that is where that is. And then we have here along the top, we can jump around, and I'm interested in housing. So I can see that from the 2017-2021 ACS 5-year estimates, the total housing units in this area is 1,491 with the corresponding margin of error. Now, what if you don't know what TDSA means? That's totally okay, because this tool has a nice feature where the glossary is right along the bottom, and you can go down here and scroll to see that TDSAs are tribal designated statistical areas. So this glossary allows us to easily figure out what the different geographies are. So you can close here, then you can select download and share to download your data as you need. So that is a very quick look at 3 different tools. And I know that those were some really quick demonstrations, but now I want to jump back over and show you some resources with you to share with you to scratch some itches if you want to learn more about the ACS. So there are a variety of resources the Census Bureau provides for learning more about ACS data, tools, and the survey at large. So first, we have the ACS main page, which is a great tool to start with if you have any questions about the ACS. And you can find it simply by going to census.gov/ACS. This website contains a wealth of information about the survey, data products, tools for data users, and other helpful information. You may also be curious as to why we ask questions about specific topics on the ACS. Every question has a required purpose and many uses to help communities. So you can explore the set of interactive Why We Ask web pages to discover the importance of each question. For each topic, you can browse some of the most popular results from that question and view the question as it appears on the form. We also provide information on the origin of the question, how we protect your privacy, and how ACS statistics help communities. Links to our data tables and tools page can be found through the ACS data page. These web pages will introduce you to the most popular tools and data products with descriptions and links for each. The tables page will provide definitions of each type of table, as well as links to tools where those products can be found. And the tools page shares the numerous options you can use to find ACS estimates. For example, you can find links to the tools like data.census.gov and the others that I demonstrated today. As I mentioned in the very beginning of this presentation, the ACS provides estimates, and that in and of itself is a strength of the ACS, estimating characteristic distributions. The Census Bureau recommends that users compare population characteristics such as percents, means, medians, and rates rather than estimates of population totals. Now, if you're looking for population totals, we recommend using the decennial census or the Population Estimates Program. In general, the Census Bureau recommends that you do compare from non-overlapping periods. For example, compare a 2012 to 2016 ACS 5-year estimate to a 2017 to 2021 ACS 5-year estimate. Do not compare overlapping periods. For example, 2016 to 2020 ACS 5-year estimates should not be compared to the 2017-2021 ACS 5-year estimates. Do compare similar period lengths. For example, compare 1 year to 1 year or 5 year to 5 year. Do not compare estimates from different period lengths. For example, don't compare 1 year to 5 year. The comparison guidance page provides broad information about comparing ACS estimates across years with the Census 2000 and the 2010 and 2020 census. The Comparing ACS data page can be found by going to the ACS homepage, census.gov/ACS, then selecting Guidance for Data Users on the left navigation, and then again, Comparing ACS data. It's important to keep in mind that all ACS data are estimates. We collect data from a sample of the population in the United States and Puerto Rico rather than from the whole population. So to help you interpret the reliability of the estimates, the Census Bureau publishes those margin of errors for every ACS estimate. Unless you take into account those MOEs, you cannot conclude that the estimates are statistically different from one to another. Instead, you have to conduct statistical testing when making comparisons between estimates to check for any differences. We will talk more about how to do this on an upcoming slide. Looking at estimates alone to decide if they are higher or lower than one is not sufficient. So let's move right into a little discussion about statistical testing and its importance. Statistical testing is a critical part of data analysis, as it can tell us whether or not a difference in estimates is meaningful. In short, a statistical test is a test to determine if a difference is unlikely to have occurred by chance. To be statistically different, there must be statistical evidence that there is a difference between two estimates. Statistical testing should be conducted anytime you make comparisons between two estimates. For example, if you're going to the city council or county council asserting that a certain population has experienced poverty in higher proportions in recent years than it had in several years before, you want to make sure you've tested to know that a true difference exists. The good news is you can test for statistical significance using math, or more specifically, algebra. So this slide contains the formula for testing for statistical significance. Luckily for you, you do not need to worry about relearning advanced algebra because the Census Bureau released its statistical testing tool for public use. This tool allows you to input estimates you'd like to test and receive a visual notification instantly of whether those estimates are statistically different or not. Using the tool, you can compare both pairs of estimates and groups of estimates against each other. The tool is available for download as an Excel spreadsheet via the link at the bottom of the slide. Now, for users that have accessed the data but need more information to understand the tables and complete their analysis, we offer code lists, subject definitions, group quarter definitions, instructions for applying statistical testing, comparison guidance, and accuracy of the data in our technical documentation section. The technical documentation page, as shown on this slide, can be found from the main ACS webpage, then selecting technical documentation on the left-hand side. I want to also point out that we have information for web pages. These pages are organized by ACS user type, such as American Indian and Alaska Native populations, equity, general users, Spanish speakers, researchers, and more. These pages provide resources for each type of user and include the ACS information guide, specific handbooks aimed toward a user type, relevant flyers for the user, and much more. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for finding resources as they pertain to the type of data user you are. And the information for pages contain quick links to access ACS data through tools like data.census.gov, quick facts, and more. As we begin to wrap up, I invite you to interact with other ACS data users and information as you begin or continue your journey with ACS estimates. I want to reiterate that the Share Your Story feature is a great way to explore the innovative ways data users are using ACS estimates. Also, I highly consider that you join a group that we have specifically for users of ACS data, known simply as the ACS Data Users Group. The group includes a website and online community with over 4,000 members where you can share messages, materials, and announcements related to the survey. Membership is free and open to all interested ACS data users of all levels. And finally, you can sign up for and manage email updates from the ACS. Our monthly events and updates email will alert you when new material are available, and you'll stay updated on our data releases. Visit the QR code under each icon to learn more about these resources. In closing, I want to share information on how to find answers and get support after this webinar. You can visit our website at census.gov/ACS. Again, it has a wealth of information about the survey, data products, tools for data users, and other helpful information. If you still have data user questions, you can reach us by phone or email at acso.users.support@census.gov or call the number you see here. Census Academy is our learning hub for data skills. You can learn how to access and use Census Bureau data your way through our how-to data gem videos and in-depth courses, webinars, and tutorials. If you remember way back in the beginning of this presentation, this is where you can find that course, Discovering the American Community Survey. This page also has a link where you can request a training at no cost from our Data Dissemination Specialist, or DDSs. DDSs are located within your region, and they can provide you with assistance about Census Bureau data, such as how to obtain or understand ACS data. Whether conducting one-on-one webinars with business startups or conducting large-scale presentations at universities, these specialists strive to put the public in touch with the data they need. If you're on social media, connect with us at US Census Bureau. And one last thing, if you're using ACS estimates, please make sure to source the Census Bureau American Community Survey as to where you receive the data. It helps people know that the information they're using is powered by the ACS. This concludes today's webinar on the introduction to the ACS. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you learned a lot, and good luck as you start or continue your journey with the ACS.